Hello and welcome to this video, where I simply gush over how amazing the From Software community is. This includes the Dark Souls trilogy, Demon's Souls original and remastered, Bloodborne, Sekiro and soon to be Elden Ring. I want to address what makes this community amazing in my eyes and maybe highlight some parts of it you might not be aware of. This video is going to be split down into different sections, for the different parts of the community which makes up the whole. I will be addressing what makes them individually awesome but also how they contribute to the overall community so that together we can all have a greater overall experience of the From Software masterpieces we have been given. Before I begin, to introduce myself to those of you who are new to my channel, I am the Anonymous Weeb. I enjoy manga and more important to this topic, From Software's games, having played and beaten all of them since Demon's Souls. So I'd like to consider myself a part of this community even if I don't only make content around it. If I could ask you to do me a tiny little favor and go down below the video and press the subscribe button so I can reach 500 subscribers before the end of the year, that would be amazing, and if you're feeling extra generous maybe even hit that like button. But enough of that shameless self-promotion and let's get on with the video. Lawkeepers, tomb prospectors, whatever you call them in your branch of the From Software community, they are those who delve deep into the item descriptions, observe the twisting and winding visage that we are presented with, and within the ever-shifting halls of their mind they come together to piece the story together in a way that individual like I, simple mortals, could never hope to achieve. From the individuals like Voti Video with his astonishing Prepare to Cry series, which recontextualized a great amount of the enemies and NPCs we met in our travels throughout Lordran, Drangleic, Lothric, Yharnam and Boletaria into a more tragic light, blowing the doors wide open for so many people to see what he saw, a beautifully tragic set of characters, each one spiraling down until they reach where we find them in-game, and most of the time where we see them die from the tragic and misguided actions they might have took. Then you can move across to a more otherworldly lore hunter, a witch of whom isn't content to just observe the goings-on within the games from within, like the knowing astral voice of Voti. Zully the witch pulls back the veil over the entire world, digging into the very fabric of From Software's worlds, in order to decode secrets which would otherwise be completely unfathomable to us. Through Zully's heretical sorcery, we are able to plunder the depths of eldritch knowledge that From Software sought to hide from us, giving us new insight not just into the world as it is now, but how the world might have been and how we reached where we are now. For a lore hunter isn't someone only concerned with the world as it currently is, but the worlds of how it was and how it could have been. A lore hunter isn't only concerned with the in-game item descriptions, that might have held them for a time, but such inquisitive minds would never be satisfied with that. They crave more and more, an endless abyss of darkness which can never be filled. That is their desire to learn and uncover whatever remains hidden within these games, and to spread it to the masses so that we might all have eyes on the inside. Of course, putting the shine on only these two creators does a huge discredit to the entire community of individuals of all kinds which make up this sect of the community, from individuals who are translators of the native texts to recontextualize that which we thought unmistakable fact, to those decoding the demonic runic texts so that we might understand the primal runes left by those who will no longer speak to us. Those who, rather than delving into the dirty dank halls of From Software's bottomless labyrinths and instead gather in metaphysical lecture halls to discuss theories, hypothesizes and speculate on that which the others bring to their doorsteps, much like the Byrgenwerth scholars themselves. Perhaps that's why they are so great. They find themselves imitating those they find in the game, who also search endlessly for knowledge. If you can't see the glory behind not only such a grand discussion, but also the coming together of people from all across the world for such a combined purpose, then you really need to consider diving headlong into the lore hunter community. Speaking with those crazed minds, you might find a new appreciation for it, but if I was you I wouldn't tally too long. The uninitiated are always the first to fall into despair when the truth is revealed. But that is enough of such talk. Before I find myself muttering incoherently, let us move on. I must admit, I'm not an avid member of the PvP community, at least not so far as in that I go seeking out individuals to partake in it, willing or otherwise, but I have been a reluctant member on several occasions, and on even rarer occasions I myself have sought out a test of my skills again another, but for most of it I am but a passer's observer, watching on as two people put life and limb on the line, or in the case of these games sometimes something much worse, the loss of progress. The loss of the will to continue pushing forwards, to meet your next challenge no matter however demanding. I have seen the thrill that comes from being a single mistake away from utter failure, and while those of us who stick to the game's pre-built challenges might feel that sensation, that buzzing in our heads as suddenly our focus is completely placed upon the motions of everything going on within the screen, but it only lasts so long until we adapt. We change our strategies until we completely overcome that which once trounced us. But for those who immerse themselves in battling those who have no set coding, no pre-made set of attacks or guides to help you win, you can reach those highs much more often. Those who allow the anarchy of invasions to take hold, where they can never be certain of how close they are to a sudden turnabout, a disruption in the flow of battle which might see them hurtling to their death, are very much like the mad wandering spirits. Not in that they attack friend or foe, although they certainly could, but rather in that they have allowed the madness of the high to completely envelop them, driving them ever onwards in the search for that next great high. I wonder if From Software intended from the very begin to turn men into monsters with this system in place. Perhaps the invasion system is much more than just a mechanic in the game, but rather a display of the themes of each game. How interesting. But that is not all the seemingly self-destructive and bloodthirsty sect of the community brings to bear. They also are the ones who are often the first to discover what weapons are good for what situations. Mirroring the lore hunters, who endlessly pursue knowledge of the world, these individuals pursue the knowledge of the self and what extends from the self. By that I mean they are the ones who experiment with what is achievable by the player character alone. How can they abuse the systems put in place to win as many matches, as many invasions as possible? They are the ones who document the findings on each weapon, from their hitbox, to the combos which can be pulled off using them, to the potency of spells, the optimum setup for a particular weight class and weapon. From the outside they might appear as blood-hungry brutes, but the amount of research they put into breaking down everything from active weapon frames to the recovery frames, to frame-perfect dodges and actions certainly rivals the dedication of any other sect of the community. The members which present their findings, their achievements and sometimes their failures to the rest of the community are what helps to bring in even those who are not actively a part of this sect into an understanding of what it is they do and how they benefit the whole while still being an annoyance to those who aren't prepared for their zeal. What a perfect representation of disparity. But let us not linger here lest an axe ends up going through my neck. I have already spoke about individuals breaking down the world's history and story, as well as the individuals who break down what the character can do, but now it is time to speak upon those individuals who break the world, who tear at its confines, and rather than just reading what is there to gain insight they instead seek to ascend past the bounds of the game and rise to a higher plane. I of course speak of the individuals simply known as speedrunners, those individuals who have the mental fortitude to practice the same fight over and over and over again to remove as much of a randomness as possible, so that they might achieve those valuable microseconds that could make all the difference within the realm of speedrunning, where even a single mistake can see you wasting hours, or even days of work trying to reach the tip-top of the ever-climbing leaderboard. The fact that the speedrunning sect of the community requires a level of interconnectedness that the others lack, as to be recognized as achieving anything in this field you must demonstrate your prowess rather than simple claim to have thought something or done something. No one will accept you as a speedrunner until you demonstrate yourself to be one. The way in which they explore every nook and cranny of the world, taking the discoveries from the bloodthirsty PvP community to make use of the weapons which most effectively dismantle the enemies they might not be able to avoid, they take the knowledge from the lore hunters who delve into the coding of the game, to find glitches and optimum routes through the game, which allow them to avoid huge chunks of it, just shows how interconnected different sects of this entire community are. Then there is the fact that they go out of their way to pretty concisely demonstrate the limits of what the game is capable of throwing at you. They let it be known to the masses that with enough time and dedication put into the game can be beaten with absurd efficacy, and if such a thing is possible, then surely it must also be possible for those with less skill to at least beat the game. The very idea of speed running one of these games is like the issuing of a challenge, a duel to the rest of the community and those who dwell beyond the fog created by From Software's games, a challenge to not just beat the game but to humiliate it, to own it in a way that only those with the right kind of mindset can achieve. Goal hunters in these games are truly hardcore, going above and beyond the call of duty for the benefits of not only themselves but everyone else too. Now moving on to the next sect of individuals I wish to talk about. Those who seek to not harm, to mislead but to help and guide are a rarer breed when it comes to this entire community, but they still exist. Individuals who take the idea of jolly cooperation beyond the bounds of interactions within the game and instead begin to provide cooperation independent of it. I am of course speaking of those people who create walkthroughs, guides and other such manuals to allow for those lacking in skill, time or any other issue that prevents them from having the optimal time to explore and risk failure at every turn. These individuals are a beacon of hope to those who are on the verge of hollowing, an open hand to help them back onto their feet so that they might continue to press forwards. Those who follow this path seek to enlighten others, not to the story or to the systems of the world, although they might also do that, but the most important thing they impart onto others is how to survive within such a hostile environment as these games. For a game and a community which prizes the ability to press forwards against all odds and do the impossible, it's quite nice to see a sect of it which, despite that, instead of saying that everyone is in it for themselves or that only the individual's knowledge, experience and skill matter, it is the whole which matters. I dare say that if not for these brave and kind souls who held out a hand to guide the masses, there would be far less people who would have made it through their first time playing one of these masterpieces, and the community wouldn't have thrived because of it. I know that I followed a build guide when I first played Dark Souls, and I have followed many more upon my completions of the game so that I might locate any goodies I might have missed before venturing off into New Game Plus. And let us not forget that without these individuals many people would never have discovered secrets such as Ash Lake or other hidden areas of the games which From had the bravery hide away from us, with the expectation of not very many people finding it in their first or any playthrough, at least not by themselves. The fact that they built in entire areas which would require a guide to find, and of course let us not forget the fact they hid the DLC behind a convoluted path of collecting items, speaking to NPCs and backtracking to the back of a lake that some people didn't even realize they could walk around. Without guides and those who create them, I fully expect there would have been people who never even found the extra content which they paid for. Truly without these people we would have been at a complete loss, which only makes me appreciate them even more. But before I start waxing on about how a walkthrough prevented me from abandoning the series altogether, let's move on. A part of the community, which is very near and dear to my heart, as somewhat of a novice artist myself, is the community responsible for creating some of the most visually stunning, mind-melding and awe-inspiring sights I have ever had the chance to witness. The artists within the community truly are touched by the great ones, and bestowed with inhuman wisdom, because some of the products they produce, be they inspired by the games or direct recreations of something within them through their own lens, they demonstrate a labor of love. I suppose individuals, be they those who have played the game or watched others play it, must feel a great amount of emotion, because I can feel it within so many of the works that I see, be they those which are made from novices like myself to masters who put themselves forth for things such as Voti's art competitions. I am truly blessed to be part of a community which can take something that we all love and make it into a labor of their own love for us all to enjoy. And this is only to speak on those who produce visual art. There are those who, much like Croonsmith Carroll, they inscribe the inhuman sounds of the series into a musical melody which can both delight and entice the minds of us lesser beings, leaving us in a trance from which we are able to recall glorious battles, crushing defeats, great sorrows, and overwhelming joy. Being able to conjure up such feelings of nostalgia from simple sounds is nothing short of a miracle, although I am certain a certain lap fellow might disagree with that assessment. Art is something which is prized within the community, be it from the lowly gutter rats like myself, all the way up to the scholars in their archives like Voti, to those toiling away in the arcane twisting labyrinths like Zully, to those madmen who continue to try and make the game harder on themselves than ever before like Lobos Jr. There is nothing quite like the artist sect of the community to bring individuals together in a unified sense of appreciation. And speaking of artists, I'd like to thank my younger brother for doing the art for this video. As I said, I'm just a novice and never formally learned to draw, but now I am being taught by him to try and improve, so thank you for everything. If you enjoyed the art, then I'll see what I can do about getting him to make some more in the future. If you didn't, well, too bad, I guess. Anyway, it's time for me to start wrapping up this video, so let's do that. I have been the Anonymous Weeb. This has been a video about my selfish ramblings on about the From Software community. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If you want to see more, remember to subscribe and hit the bell button. I'm told that will help keep you informed about when I upload. Otherwise, make sure to have a good day or night wherever you are, and remember to celebrate your own communities.